Welcome to Friendship Friday. My name is Mark Long, rector of the parish of St Andrew in Newlands, Cape Town. For probably the last 2 years, I have been reading a book by Rabbi Jonathan Sacks entitled The Great Partnership, God, Science and the Search for Meaning. It's a wonderful book, and I kind of dip into it, and it gives me a whole lot to think about for quite a while. The joy of Jonathan Sacks is that as a Jewish rabbi, he has a deep understanding of the Old Testament, the Jewish scriptures, but he is also a trained philosopher and really does understand the Western mind and the impact of Greek thinking upon it. And so it's a hugely intriguing book, and one that just really for me makes some very deep sense to some of the understandings of the Old Testament that we've somehow lost in Christianity. We've kind of got quite fixed and doctrinal about it, and there's something quite living about the way that Jonathan interprets much of what is there. The section at the moment, he's reflecting on relationships, and there are a whole lot of quotes. I wish I could probably just spend half an hour reading you quotes, but what I did find helpful, and I'd like to read you just one brief sentence from the book, is his reflection on faith in terms of relationships and the importance of relating one with another. His comment is that faith is the moralization of love. It is not a cognitive act. The Hebrew word for faith really means covenant loyalty. Now, that already just puts a different spin on perhaps certainly how I've always perceived the definition of faith. When we speak of faith, very often we speak of what we believe. And it can be, as Jonathan says here, quite a cognitive act for us in the Western world. I'm struck that in the creeds, which are the sort of foundational statements of faith for us as Christians, we begin those by saying, I believe, or we believe. And we go on to state a whole lot of things that we believe what God has been up to in our world, how God works, some of the key events that have defined and continue to define how we see our relationship with God. Now, intrinsic, of course, to that word belief is trust. And it's easy to forget that because it's not physically there in the words that we read and say. I do love the baptismal creed in the Anglican prayer book, 1989, which speaks about we believe, or I believe and trust in God. And it's helpful sometimes from our Western mindset, sometimes to just be reminded that trust is a deep element of belief. So the danger is for us to get all doctrinal about our faith, and we have endless structures and systems to what we believe, how things fit in, where they intersect, where they don't. But it often can just be very much in the mind. And that's dangerous when it comes to faith, because it disconnects us from the reality of life. And I think so much, and Jonathan's quite good at pulling this out about the Old Testament, the Jewish scriptures, so much of what is there is about life experience and how people of faith, or how people have discovered God in the exploration of daily life over the millennia. And for you and I, ultimately, I'm sure you'd agree with me, faith really begins to make sense when it impacts on my daily experience, my daily relationships, the daily ups and downs that life brings. And for me, this period of COVID-19 and the subsequent lockdown that we've all been part of, it's caused me to think through a whole lot of what I do believe about God, about the world, about myself, about others, about the way one should live life. But it's more than just a mental thinking. It's getting down into the heart of things, the expression, the underlying attitudes that hold so much of what faith and life is about. And so when Jonathan Sacks says that it's not a cognitive act, it's not about what's here. Not that we shouldn't have some thoughts about it, not that we shouldn't, no, not that I'm suggesting we should walk away from the kind of structures of our thinking and faith, but that it really needs to find its way from our heads into our hearts, and from a kind of just a cerebral interaction to something that is life-giving and relational. It's something between me and you. It's something between me and God. And in fact, it's between God, me and you. There's a kind of triangle to that space. And so his comment that what he terms the biblical word, he's referring here to the Hebrew word for faith, really meaning covenant loyalty. That brings it right into the space of relationship. And it's relationship that has this deep element of covenant commitment to one another, that we seek to not live past each other, but we seek to allow our lives to intersect with one another, intersect with God, and in that space to really discover life, and the fullness of life, the abundance of life, the goodness of life. He goes on to say that faith lives, breathes, and has its being in the world of relationships. And ultimately, that is really where faith makes sense. When I look back over my life, my faith has grown, not because I've spent huge amounts of time studying, although that obviously has some benefit, but I have spent it in relationship with other people who are in relationship with God as well. Sometimes they're people that I like and agree with. Sometimes it's people I like and disagree with. Occasionally it's probably also been people I dislike and disagree with. But nonetheless, all those spaces are where my relationship with God, my sense of my own spirituality has been able to mature and grow. And the nature of relationship is ultimately, for me, when I look back over my life, that is where my faith has been engendered. It is in the context of relationships I have shared, continue to share, and doubtless will share in the future. So I'd like to just leave us with that thought on this Friendship Friday. When we speak of friendship, it is, friendship only happens in the context of relationship. And friendship with God, friendship with each other, and just friendship with ourselves. I think we need to be good friends with ourselves. If we can find that space, so much else falls into place. So I would encourage you today just to reflect a little further perhaps on your understanding of faith, how faith kicks in and defines your understanding of God, understanding of yourself, your understanding of others. And not to get too caught up in the thinking part, but really just reflecting a little perhaps on that more deeper emotional level of response to the world in which we live, and to discover God in that space, alive, renewing, transforming, and leading us forward.